First contact shock. The Imperial battlecruiser Relentless glided through the darkness of space, its sleek, predatory form cutting through the void with practiced precision. Commander Vex stood on the bridge, his four eyes scanning the tactical displays as his vessel led a standard patrol formation near the outer boundary of Sector 7. This region of space had been under Solarian Empire control for 3 centuries, a buffer zone between the Empire's core systems and the vast unknown that lay beyond. "Commander, we're detecting an unusual energy signature," reported Sensor Officer Krell, her scaled fingers dancing across the control interface. "Bearing 227 Mark 43, approximately 2 light minutes away." Vex shifted his weight, the ceremonial armor of his rank clicking softly. "Classification: unknown, sir. The signature doesn't match anything in our database." That was unusual. The Empire's database contained the energy profiles of every known spacefaring civilization in the galaxy, all carefully cataloged, studied, and ranked by threat level. An unknown signature meant a potential new player on the galactic stage, or worse, something the Empire had classified as too primitive to monitor closely had suddenly advanced. "Tactical view," Vex ordered. The main display shifted, showing a small vessel approaching their position. It was unlike any ship Vex had seen in his 3 decades of service, sleek with a dark hull that seemed to both absorb and reflect light in impossible ways. Blue energy pulsed along what appeared to be propulsion arrays, but the configuration made no sense according to known physics. "Hail them," Vex commanded, straightening his posture. First contact protocols were clear: establish communication, demonstrate superior firepower, and offer the newcomer the generous opportunity to acknowledge the Empire's dominance. The alternative was typically brief and terminal. Communications Officer Taz sent the standard Imperial hail, a complicated sequence of mathematical principles followed by linguistic keys designed to be universally understandable. The response came almost immediately, bypassing the Empire's encryption protocols as if they were childish puzzles. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Starhawk. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. Please identify yourselves." The bridge fell silent. Earth. The primitive, quarantined world from the Sol system. A planet the Empire had classified as pre-FTL just 30 standard years ago, with technology barely capable of reaching their own moon. "Impossible," Vex muttered. "Put their visual feed on screen." The display flickered, and the image of a human female appeared. She appeared calm, professional, dressed in a uniform of deep blue with silver insignia on the shoulders. Behind her was a bridge that looked impossibly advanced for a species that should still be experimenting with chemical rockets. Vex composed himself quickly. "This is Commander Vex of the Imperial vessel Relentless. You have entered restricted Imperial space. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Failure to comply will result in your immediate destruction." The human captain's expression didn't change. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Commander. We have no hostile intentions, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Vex felt a surge of anger at the human's defiance. "You have 10 standard minutes to comply. Relentless out." He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Target their propulsion systems. Prepare to disable them." "Yes, Commander." 20 minutes later, Admiral Vex entered the Grand Council chamber, his steps heavy with urgency. The emergency meeting had been called with such haste that some council members still showed signs of interrupted sleep cycles. The Empire's highest military and political leaders rarely gathered with such urgency. "Play the recording," ordered High Chancellor Zen, the most senior political official present. The holographic display in the center of the circular table activated, showing Commander Vex's encounter with the human vessel. The council watched as the Relentless fired what should have been disabling shots at the Starhawk. Instead of striking their target, the energy beams curved away from the human ship, as if deflected by some invisible force field far beyond Imperial technology. What happened next caused several council members to gasp. The human vessel fired back, not with primitive projectiles or basic energy weapons, but with what appeared to be concentrated streams of quantum particles. The beams passed through the relentless shields as if they weren't there. Instead of destroying the Imperial vessel, however, the weapons precisely disabled its propulsion and weapons systems, leaving life support intact. The recording continued with the human captain's calm voice. "Your crew is unharmed, Commander Vex. Consider this a diplomatic introduction between the Xalarian Empire and Earth. We will contact your government directly to establish formal relations." Then the Earth vessel seemed to ripple like water before vanishing completely, not using any recognizable form of FTL travel. Admiral Vex paused the recording. This was taken 14 hours ago in Sector 7. The Relentless was able to restore minimal power and send this data burst before requiring assistance. "How is this possible?" demanded Minister of Science Lax, her normally composed features showing rare distress. "Humans were barely able to reach their own orbit when we last surveyed them. Our assessment classified them as at least 2 centuries away from developing functional FTL technology. That assessment was 30 years ago," noted Security Director Vorn, who had remained silent until now. "We deemed them too primitive for close monitoring." 30 years is nothing," exclaimed High Chancellor Zinn. "No species develops this level of technology in 3 decades. It's impossible." Admiral Vex activated another holographic display. "Imperial intelligence has compiled everything we know about Earth and humans. Population approximately 10 billion. Official space presence limited to their home system, a small station orbiting their planet, research outposts on their moon, and 2 other planets in their system. They use chemical rockets and basic ion drives, or so we thought. Could this be some other species using human identities as cover?" suggested Minister of Trade Hole. "The communication was visual as well as audio," replied Admiral Vex. "They were definitely humans. What we don't know is whether this Starhawk is one exceptional vessel or representative of a human fleet we know nothing about." The room fell into uneasy silence as the implications sank in. The Xalarian Empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, encompassing over 8,000 star systems and hundreds of species. For millennia, they had encountered no civilization that could challenge their technological superiority. Until now. "This changes everything," said High Chancellor Zinn finally. "A species with technology that can bypass our shields and defensive systems, with faster-than-light capabilities beyond our understanding, sitting just outside our borders." "What are you suggesting?" asked Minister of Diplomacy Thala sharply. "We need to know more," replied Admiral Vex. "I recommend an immediate intelligence operation. We need to infiltrate human space, determine their military capabilities, locate any hidden colonies, and assess the threat level." "And if they detect our operatives?" asked Security Director Vorn. "Then we'll at least know they're watching," said Admiral Vex. "But we can't remain ignorant while this potential threat grows." High Chancellor Zinn was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Approved. Director Vorn, assemble your best agents. Admiral Vex, prepare a containment strategy in case we need to respond militarily." As the council members began discussing operational details, Admiral Vex stared at the frozen image of the Starhawk on the display. After thousands of years of Imperial dominance, they had finally encountered a species that might be their technological superior. And not some ancient, dying civilization, but humans, a species they had dismissed as primitive just 3 decades ago. The galaxy was about to change, and Vex wondered if the Empire was truly ready for what was coming. 6 days after the council meeting, Battle Group Sigma assembled at the edge of Sector 7. 20 Imperial warships, the most powerful reconnaissance fleet dispatched in decades, formed a precise formation under the command of Fleet Captain Zex. Their mission was clear: probe deeper into the region where the Starhawk had been encountered, locate any human installations, and assess their capabilities without initiating open conflict unless necessary. A show of Imperial strength designed to gather information and, hopefully, intimidate. Status report: Zex demanded, his four-fingered hand tapping impatiently on the command console of his flagship, the Indomitable. "We've crossed the boundary of charted space, sir," replied his second-in-command, Officer Mech. "We are now in the region where the human vessel was first encountered." Zex nodded, his dark eyes scanning the tactical display. The Grand Admiral had been clear. This was not an invasion force, but a carefully calibrated probe. The Empire needed to know exactly what they were dealing with before committing to any substantial military action. "Any sign of human vessels?" Zex asked. "Nothing, Commander," said the sensor officer. "Space is clear for 10 light minutes in all directions." Zex frowned. Intelligence had suggested the humans must have a base somewhere in this sector. Had they retreated upon detecting the Imperial fleet? That would be the wise choice. Despite the impressive technology displayed by the Starhawk, no species could hope to match the combined might of 20 Imperial warships. "Sir," the sensor officer's voice rose in alarm. "3 ships just appeared. They weren't there a second ago." "On screen," ordered Zex. The view screen shifted, showing 3 vessels that had somehow appeared directly in the path of the Imperial fleet. They were still 5 light minutes away, too far for a surprise attack, but their sudden appearance was disturbing. "How did they get there?" demanded Zex. "No FTL signature detected, sir," the sensor officer replied, her voice shaking slightly. "They just appeared." Zex studied the 3 human ships. One was clearly the Starhawk, now familiar from the recordings. The second was similar in design but smaller. The third ship, however, was something else entirely, at least twice larger than the Indomitable, with a smooth black hull that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. "Analysis of the large vessel," Zex requested, trying to keep his voice steady. "Energy readings are off the charts, sir," reported the science officer. "Our sensors can't penetrate its hull. Based on size comparison, I would classify it as a Dreadnought-class warship." A human dreadnought. The concept seemed ridiculous mere days ago. "They're hailing us, sir," said the communications officer. On screen. The view screen changed to show a human female in a dark blue uniform with gold markings on the shoulders. She appeared calm and composed, with dark hair pulled back from her face. "Imperial Fleet, this is Captain Alina Reyes of the Earth vessel Defiance. You have entered space that Earth considers its security zone. State your intentions." Zex stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full height. "This is Fleet Captain Zex of the Imperial flagship Indomitable. You will stand down and prepare for inspection. The Empire does not recognize any claim by Earth to territory beyond your home system." The human captain's expression didn't change. "Captain Zex, we have no desire for conflict. I propose we meet to discuss the situation diplomatically. The Defiance has suitable facilities for such a meeting." Zex almost laughed. The human was inviting him onto their vessel. Did they think Imperial commanders were so foolish? "There will be no meeting," Zex replied coldly. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitive species who have somehow acquired technology beyond their understanding. You will surrender your vessels for inspection, or we will take them by force." For the first time, a flicker of emotion, was it disappointment, crossed the human's face. I had hoped for a more reasonable response. "Please be aware that while we prefer peaceful resolution, we are prepared to defend ourselves." The transmission ended, leaving Zex staring at the 3 human vessels on the view screen. 20 Imperial warships against 3 human vessels should be overwhelming odds. But the memory of how easily the Starhawk had disabled the Relentless gave him pause. The galaxy was changing indeed, and the Empire's first real challenge in millennia had just begun. The Empire's reckoning. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge of the Defiance, studying the Imperial fleet arrayed before her. 20 warships, each bristling with weapons that could devastate a small planet. Once, such a sight would have terrified humanity. Now, it was merely concerning. "They're maintaining formation," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson, her tactical officer. Weapons systems active, shields at maximum. Elena nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the main display. And our status. Quantum barrier at full strength. Precision targeting systems locked on their propulsion and weapons arrays. The Starhawk and Horizon report ready status. The tension on the bridge was palpable. This encounter would shape human-imperial relations for decades to come. Elena had hoped Captain Zex would be reasonable, but his arrogance was typical of the Empire. They still viewed humans as primitives who had somehow stumbled upon advanced technology. Dangerous upstarts to be put in their place. If only they knew the truth. Captain, Communications Officer Patel called out. The Imperial flagship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're ordering us to surrender or face destruction. Standard time limit. 3 minutes. Elena sighed. So much for diplomacy. Initiate protocol revelation. Deep within the Defiance, quantum computers beyond Imperial understanding calculated precise coordinates and energy requirements. Around the human vessels, space itself began to ripple and distort. On the bridge of the Indomitable, alarms blared as sensor officers reported the disturbance. "What's happening?" demanded Captain Zex. "Unknown spatial phenomenon surrounding the human vessels," replied the science officer, panic evident in his voice. Energy readings exceeding all known parameters. Before Zex could issue new orders, the space around his fleet transformed. Where there had been 3 human ships, there were now dozens, appearing from seemingly nowhere, materializing as if from thin air. The tactical display updated frantically, showing human vessels of various sizes surrounding the Imperial fleet in a perfect sphere formation. "Impossible," whispered Zex, his military discipline momentarily forgotten as he stared at the display. "There are 73 of them." The communication system activated again, showing Captain Reyes. This time, her expression held a hint of regret. "Captain Zex, what you're witnessing is not an act of aggression, but a demonstration. Your sensors now detect only a fraction of our actual presence in this region. We could have revealed ourselves like this from the beginning, but we hoped for a more measured introduction." Zex found his voice again, anger overcoming shock. "This changes nothing. The Empire will not be intimidated by illusions and tricks." "These aren't illusions, Captain," Reyes replied calmly. "Each ship you see is real, each capable of neutralizing your fleet without destroying it, just as the Starhawk did with the Relentless. But that's not why we're here." She gestured, and the display split to show a star map of the galaxy. A dark mass was spreading from the far side, consuming star systems in its path. "This is why we've revealed ourselves now," Reyes continued. "What you're seeing is something we call the Void Confluence, an expansionist force moving through the galaxy at an alarming rate. Our deep space sensors detected them 3 years ago. They'll reach Imperial space within 7 years, and Earth shortly after." Zex studied the map, his tactical mind processing the information despite his distrust. "And I should believe this threat exists because you say so. Your long-range observation post in the Denari cluster was destroyed 4 months ago," Reyes replied. "Your Empire classified it as a stellar phenomenon. It wasn't. It was their advanced scouts." Zex's blood ran cold. The Denari incident was highly classified. There was no way the humans should know about it unless... "How long have you been watching us?" he asked quietly. "Long enough to know you can't face this threat alone," Reyes answered. "Neither can we. That's why I'm extending an invitation not just to you, but to your Emperor. It's time for a proper introduction between our civilizations." Admiral Thex entered the secure chamber beneath the Imperial Palace, followed by High Chancellor Zin and the Emperor's personal guard. The room had been swept for surveillance devices 3 times, and only the highest-ranking officials of the Empire were present. The tension was thick enough to cut with a blade. At the center of the chamber stood 2 humans, a male with graying hair in a formal uniform with admiral's insignia, and a female in civilian attire that somehow conveyed authority despite its simplicity. "Your Imperial Majesty," the human admiral began, bowing his head slightly. a gesture of respect without submission. I am Admiral David Chen of the Earth Defense Force. This is Dr. Sofia Vasquez, our Director of Interstellar Relations. The Emperor, ancient and rarely seen outside the most formal occasions, studied the humans with eyes that had witnessed millennia of imperial rule. You have caused quite the disturbance in my empire, Admiral Chen. That was never our intention, Your Majesty, replied Chen. But circumstances have forced us to accelerate our introduction. High Chancellor Xin stepped forward. You claim to have been hidden among us for decades, developing technology that should be beyond your capabilities. Explain how this is possible. Dr. Vasquez smiled faintly. Chancellor, the simple truth is that humanity has been underestimated. 97 years ago, an archaeological expedition in Earth's Pacific Ocean discovered something extraordinary at a depth previously thought unreachable. The holographic projector she carried activated, displaying a crystalline structure glowing with inner light. We call it the Nexus. Analysis revealed it to be approximately 3 million years old, created by a civilization that existed long before any current galactic power. The precursors, whispered the Emperor, leaning forward with sudden interest. You found precursor technology. Yes, confirmed Vasquez. The Nexus contained information, schematics, theoretical physics, quantum mechanics far beyond our understanding at the time. It took decades just to develop the tools to properly access its knowledge. Admiral Chen continued, once we began to unravel its secrets, we realized we weren't alone in the galaxy. We detected your observation ships in our system 70 years ago. Impossible, said Admiral Fex. Our stealth technology was advanced, interrupted Chen, but detectable with Nexus-derived sensors. When we realized how vastly the Empire outmatched us technologically and militarily, our leaders made a decision. We would hide our true development. A wise precaution, noted the Emperor, surprising his advisors. We would indeed have taken this Nexus by force had we known of its existence. Precisely why we maintain the facade of primitive space travel publicly while developing our true capabilities in secret, said Vasquez. But now, the void confluence approaches, and neither of us can afford secrets or conflicts with each other. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, considering. Show me what you know of this threat. Admiral Chen activated a more detailed holographic presentation. It showed recordings of strange ships, unlike anything the Imperial leaders had seen before, organic-looking vessels that seemed to absorb light and energy. The footage showed one such ship encountering an Imperial outpost, disintegrating its defenses with horrifying efficiency. They consume, explained Chen gravely, resources, technology, information, life itself. They don't negotiate or communicate. Our attempts at peaceful contact were met with immediate aggression. Their technology rivals what we've developed from the Nexus, and they appear to operate as a hive mind. How many? Asked Admiral Fex. Our deep space sensors have detected over 3,000 vessels so far, with more apparently being constructed as they consume new star systems. Their expansion is exponential. High Chancellor Xin shook his head in disbelief. And you expect us to believe you revealed yourselves now, just before this threat arrives, out of altruism. What do you really want? Survival, replied Vasquez simply. The Empire has resources and industrial capacity beyond what Earth can muster, even with our advanced technology. You have thousands of years of military experience and strategy. We have quantum technologies and defensive systems you haven't developed yet. Separately, we might delay the confluence. Together, we might stop them. The Emperor raised a hand, silencing the beginning of protests from his advisors. An alliance, then, between humans and the Empire. A practical arrangement, corrected Admiral Chen. We maintain our sovereignty, you maintain yours, but we coordinate our efforts against the greater threat. And when this threat is eliminated, asked Fex, what then? Then we will have time to learn about each other properly, said Vasquez with a slight smile. Without deception or posturing. The Emperor studied the humans for a long moment before speaking again. You've hidden among us, watched us, and judged us inadequate to know your true nature. Why should we trust you now? Admiral Chen met the Emperor's gaze directly. Because we could have struck first, but didn't. Your fleet at Sector 7 was completely surrounded by our vessels, yet every Imperial sailor returned home safely. We've had the capability to disable your core defense systems for decades but never used it. Our actions speak to our intentions better than any words could. The chamber fell silent as the Imperial leaders processed this unsettling truth. The humans had indeed shown remarkable restraint given their apparent capabilities. There is one more thing you should see, said Vasquez, activating a final holographic display. This one showed the void confluence's projected path through the galaxy. If our calculations are correct, after consuming the Empire and Earth, they will continue expanding until the entire galaxy is converted. This isn't just about our civilizations. It's about all intelligent life in the Milky Way. The Emperor's ancient eyes narrowed as he studied the projection. After a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, he nodded once. We will verify your information about this void confluence. If it proves accurate, the Empire will consider your proposal of cooperation. He fixed the humans with an intense stare. But know this: any deception, any hidden agenda revealed, and the full might of the Xalarian Empire will focus on Earth, regardless of your technological advantages. Admiral Chen nodded. Understood, Your Majesty. We'll provide all the data we've collected on the confluence for your scientists to analyze independently. As the meeting concluded and the humans were escorted from the chamber, Admiral Thex approached the Emperor. Your Majesty, do you truly believe their story? The Emperor's voice was quiet, meant only for Thex's ears. The humans have clearly deceived us for decades, Admiral. Yet their restraint is undeniable. Whether this void confluence exists as they describe or not, one truth remains. The galaxy has changed. The Empire is no longer unchallenged. His ancient eyes turned to Thex. Prepare our forces, Admiral, either for cooperation with humanity or conflict, whichever proves necessary. 3 months later, Captain Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital defense station Vigilant, watching as the first Imperial diplomatic delegation officially arrived in Earth space. The massive Imperial cruiser, escorted by both Imperial and human vessels, moved with deliberate slowness, a gesture of mutual respect and caution. Lieutenant Commander Jackson joined her at the viewport. Never thought I'd see the day, Captain. The mighty Xalarian Empire coming to Earth as equals. Not quite equals yet, Elena replied with a small smile. But they're beginning to understand that the galaxy is more complex than they believed. And the void confluence. Elena's expression darkened. Imperial deep space probes confirmed our data. They're real and they're coming. The joint defense planning begins tomorrow. Jackson nodded solemnly. Do you think we can stop them, even with the Empire's help? Elena watched as the Imperial vessel settled into orbit, its alien design a stark contrast to the sleek lines of human ships. I don't know, but humanity didn't hide among the stars for a century just to be consumed by some cosmic horror. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own destructive tendencies. She turned to face her officer, determination evident in her eyes. The confluence may be coming, but they're about to learn what happens when you threaten not just one advanced civilization, but two that have finally set aside their differences to fight together. Jackson smiled slightly. Never bet against humans, or even arrogant four-eyed Imperials, it seems, Elena replied with a hint of humor. Now let's go welcome our guests. The real work is just beginning. As Captain Rice left the observation deck, the stars beyond seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging that in the face of extinction, ancient enemies could become unlikely allies. The galaxy was changing indeed, and humanity would help shape its future, whether the void confluence liked it or not.